On the last video I did, I got a couple people commenting and asking about how I did the Chinese officer sword Ripper swap. And so I figured I'd go out of my way to show you guys how to actually do it because it's really hard to explain in text format. So basically what you want to do is, as long as you have a Chinese officer sword and a Ripper, you can go to pretty much any weapons workbench. And this is super easy to make and almost requires no materials whatsoever. So basically, once you are at said weapons workbench, you just want to go find your Chinese officer sword. Now, for this part, basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this and we're going to be making the serrated blade. Now, if you have the blacksmith perk, this part I'm about to explain doesn't actually matter. You can just craft it on there, easy peasy, you're good to go. However, what I'm going to be showing you is what I did in the video, which is something called a false attach, which is basically tricking the game to putting a mod on a weapon that shouldn't be there because you can't actually craft it. So in this case, because I don't have the blacksmith perks, I shouldn't be able to make this serrated blade at all. But what I'm going to show you is how to actually perform how to actually do that. So basically what you want to do is you want to go ahead and find your weapon and you want to rename it to 0. I'm sorry, you want to rename it to space, like just nothing. You want it to have nothing in the text box. Then what you want to do is go into modify it, find the upgrades, and using a series of quick inputs, you basically want to go down to mouse over the serrated blade and then click back to go back to the previous page. Now, this works on controller, this works on console, this works on anything. I find it easier to do this particular part using PC, only because you can be a little bit faster about it. Plus, if you're also on PC, you don't have to just go down to the next option. If you're fast enough, you can actually go based off of where the mouse lies. So for example, let's say I wanted this modification right here. I'm not going to be able to hit 3 downs and 1 over in that span of time. It's just not going to happen. But if I were to do like flick and then hit back, if I was quick enough, I could actually select this mod instead. So essentially, the point of that is, once I have it set up, I'll show you. Usually takes a couple tries, even for me. Okay, there we go. Once you actually have that done, what you want to do is hit back again to go back to the main screen. And what you should see is even the weapon, like everything about the weapon appears as if you've attached that mod, even though we haven't crafted anything, we don't have the perks, we haven't done anything, right? So now what we want to do is we want to go back into the weapon where it finally shows us the mod list again. So we don't actually have this serrated blade. So if I were to back out now, it's going to just revert back to the base Chinese officer sword like this. It just goes right back, which means we have to do the flick part again. Okay, so back out, back in. So now comes a pretty cool bits where all we have to do is mouse over the no upgrades, or in this case, let's say you were doing a mini nuke launcher, for example, and you wanted to make the MIRV attachment. Basically, you would mouse over the base mini nuke, and then you would quickly flick down to craft the MIRV launcher. Or in this case, we're going to craft no upgrade, but mouse over serrated blade. And essentially what that does is it allows us to use the materials from the base item to craft the next bit. But in this case, because we don't actually have to use anything to make no upgrade, or in this case the base officer sword, we get to make the serrated blade for free. And now, if I back out and go back in, I can swap in between these two mods, and they're crafted. Everything about them is totally legit now. So that's how you do a false attach, and that's how you craft mods without actually having any perks. So if you're doing a really low level run and you want a certain attachment on a gun super early before being able to get access to it, this is how you would do it, because this works for guns, this works for melee, this works for pretty much anything that you can upgrade. So now we do the actual taking a mod off of a different weapon and attaching it to something that it should have no right being a part of. So what we're going to do is we're now going to rename this to 0, and we're going to go find what we're using, which in this case is our Ripper, and we're going to rename this to 1. So what we need to do here is we need to make sure that the mod we want to take is not selected. So for example, what's going to happen is basically whatever you have selected, it's going to take the opposite. Or if you have multiple options, it'll just take whatever the lowest is. So in this case, let's say if I left Serrated Blade on there, which is one of the mistakes I made in the video. If I go back, even though Serrated Blade is on there, what we're going to do is we're going to hit scrap and modify at roughly the same time. If you're on controller, you need to hit them both at basically the same time. If you're on PC, you can literally just press and hold scrap, press and hold modify, and then let them both go at the same time. If you've done it correctly, what should happen is you should get this kind of bug out screen where it's asking you to scrap the weapon, but you're also in a mod selection screen. And basically what you want to do is go ahead and accept the scrap. You want to go ahead and get rid of the weapon. And then it'll bring up the weapon below, like directly below, which is why you name the weapons in this particular manner. So go ahead and hit modify. And now you should see the weapon that you just scrapped appearing here. So we can do no upgrade, electrified, or the serrated. Now, obviously, I can't do the two bottom ones because they're not crafted. But in this case, I can't actually select the serrated blade because I don't have the perks to make it, see? So this is what happens, is I end up having to take no upgrade, or the base sword, and then going back and back. And essentially what just happened is this is how I got the quote-unquote prototype that I did in the video as a first test. So even though we still have the Ripper base, we still have the Chinese officer sword base that was attached instead of the piece we wanted. Which still... Oi, 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 we don't want to talk to you. I want to chop you up. So we still do okay damage, but we don't exactly have like the bleeding or anything like that. And our damage isn't like super crazy yet. Alright, so what we're supposed to do is go ahead and go into the weapon that you want to take the mod off of, put it back down to base, or just to free up the mod that you want. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to scrap, modify, let go. You still get this bugged out menu. Go ahead and get rid of it. Go ahead and click into the weapon you want. Select the mod. And just like that, nope, there we go. And now I have my Ripper sword.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm in Good Neighbor, and I'm going to show you the exact same thing, but instead we're going to borrow this from Cleo for just a second, and we're going to try the exact same thing, but with guns instead. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing, but now we're going to do it with a tried and true method that I've used in countless videos, whereas you take a 10mm pistol and turn it into a MIRV launcher. So basically what we want to do is, in this case, we only want one set of 0 and 1. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to rename these to anything because it will not matter. So we want to find our Fat Man, and we want to rename this to 0 because this is the one we want to be messing with. I'm sorry, we want to turn it to nothing. We want to rename it, basically just hit the space bar or something, like nothing. So we're going to go ahead and go into the standard launcher. I want it to be the MIRV launcher. I want it to shoot a ton of mini nukes every shot I get, right? There's no way I'm going to take that long to get Science and Gun Nut 4, right? So we're going to do the false attach. Okay, bounce all the way back, come back. Now we actually need to craft it. So we're just going to make sure that we have everything for the standard launcher. And then we're going to craft down. Nope, so in this case we didn't get it because it's still over standard. Sorry, so we need to go down craft, sorry. No. There we go. Okay, make standard launcher, but we're moused over MIRV. Perfect. Now, what I normally do is before you start doing any of this, I normally just drop like a quick save or something just so you can revert back to it if you need to. because since you are scrapping weapons, it's kind of a bitch if you have to go back and load like a save from 5 minutes ago and redo all of these steps. Then what we want to do is we want to rename this guy to 1. We want to rename our Merv, or we want to rename our weapon that we're taking away from to 0. Now, you might find other people that say that you can leave one or the other as 0 the entire way through. I have found that it works so much easier and is so much more consistent if you do the false attach as nothing for the name and then do the actual swap as 0 and 1. Don't know why, but for me, that's just how it seems to work. So now I want to go ahead and scrap modify, go ahead and let go. Yes, I want to scrap this. Yes, I want to take this, and yes, I want to attach my... Oh, just kidding. We didn't select the thing we wanted correctly. So in this case, what's going to happen is it's not going to work. And here's why. Sometimes, as far as the guns, because the guns seem to be a lot more finicky in the long run. Like, look at this. This is so freaking impractical. Like, that's not gonna work. See how it's still shooting 10 mil rounds? It's because the mod isn't compatible with this type of guns, which is why it doesn't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and reload that, and we're going to change it around so that way we can actually take the mod off of it. So we don't want it as the Merv launcher, we want it as a standard launcher, okay? Then we're going to go ahead and rename everything, so 0. And I've done this on a pipe pistol too. Like, you can do it on practically any pistol, it seems. I usually just do it on the 10 mil just because there's, you know, 10 mil pipe pistol. Doesn't matter. There's a lot of ammo for either one of them. So we're going to go ahead and scrap, modify, let go. Go ahead and scrap it. Modify the weapon. And now Merv Launcher actually selects and goes over the barrel instead of behind it. Go ahead and attach. And once you actually hit the attach, just hit back and back. And there you have it. We now have a massive weapon of destruction. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drop a quick save there. Go ahead and pull out our new Hand of God that we just created. Looks silly. It looks obnoxious. Let's see if these guys think so. Perfect. And this is how you do all of the stuff that you've seen me do in these videos. It's literally just this method over and over and over again. So you remember, you could do this with pistols. You could do this with guns. You could do this with melee weapons. You could do it with practically anything. The only thing stopping you is some pieces won't be compatible. Like, let's say, for example, you put a Ripper onto like a hammer or something. You're probably not going to get the effect you want. So what I would recommend is just play around with them, because I've seen people put the Merv launcher onto Gatling guns. I've seen them turn auto shotguns into like super fast spin up weapons. You could do pretty much anything you want. But just remember to make a bunch of quick saves or hard saves, because there is going to be a lot of trial and error with messing around with these. You can also use legendary weapons too. Like, I've seen people use the Overseer's Guardian that shoots 2 projectiles. You can actually put the Merv onto it and shoot 2 lots of Mervs. But with that being said, whatever the legendary item is has to be the base. You can't take anything off of it. For some reason, that causes the swap around to mess up. So with that being said, again, just make a bunch of saves. It's a bunch of trial and error stuff. But at the end, you get some pretty nonsensical stuff. So hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully that sorts everything out so you guys can try these in your other playthroughs. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.